So actually, if you see in this video, you see a lot of verticals, whether it is hospitals or defense or emergency services, law enforcement, all of them, how they actually are using Toughbook and Toughpads. So the solutions today, what we are saying that with our devices, we are able to cover the whole vertical and whole industry verticals today. So just coming to very shortly, in automobile, which is one of the biggest segment for us, and there for production lines, our Toughbooks are getting used because the conditions are very harsh. Even today, if you go to any dealer, let's say Renault, Nissan, Mahindra, or Volkswagen, you will see that your car is diagnosed by our Toughbooks only. So they are using our Toughbooks in all garages. So whether it's R&D, manufacturing, services, automobiles are using hugely these type of tough devices. Second, police. Police, as you saw that what we like the solution which we are giving are very, very important for law enforcement and defense, because they are actually working outside, where the let's say I give you an example of US police or Europe police, where these devices are mounted on the all PCR vans, and we give the full solution. We give a docket, and they docket on the dashboard, and wherever they are going, so they can take a video or they can transmit the data. So it's a very, very simple and easy solution. And even in some of India also, some state polices, they have started adopting our Toughbooks. Aviation also is a very big sector for us, where not only for the pilots, but also for the maintenance and tracking of the data, these Toughbooks are getting used, because when the plane lands, so they have very less time to take all the information. So now the temperature can be very high or it can be raining, but they have to take the data. So the Toughbooks are the best suitable at that time. Utilities. So whether it is for power sector, mining, for SCADA application, many things in India and abroad also Toughbooks are getting used. And even let's say I gave an example of Uttarakhand disaster recovery. So there now states have started thinking that what we can do that in these type of conditions, in this type of disaster, how to connect. So which devices actually can help you connect. So these are the type of devices which can work in those conditions, in those let's say 20-hour battery lives, connectivity, and even they fall, nothing happens, whether it's raining or whether it is sunlight, they can work very, very easily in these type of conditions. Healthcare. So in the morning, Mr. Bala from Cognizant was talking that in healthcare, people are giving a strap whenever patient gets admitted. So these strap, today all the leading hospitals are actually giving, which come with a barcode scanner. Now, I'll just show you small video again here. It will explain how actually it is helping in healthcare.
Debbie, how are you doing?
How you doing? Good. Listen, thank you for calling me back. I really appreciate it. If the tests come back from the lab, please, it's really important that I get those looked at. Hi, Kim, how are you this evening? This week's test showed no patient is good. He presented with a fever after the last round. Share with you.
So what is happening is many hospitals today are adopting HIS and EPAC application, and they are converting from manual to digital. So suppose doctor comes in the evening, the patient, and so what he is doing today is that he's writing the prescription, that this test needs to be done, everything. But now with EPAC and HIS application, what is happening is now he's dictating, and the nurse directly puts all this data in a computing device. And he can see the X-ray reports, he can say, okay, this test needs to be done. So everything is getting digitized. And the device which you're having is totally can be sanitized, is a high battery life, hot swappable. So those are being now used in many leading hospitals across the world and some of the leading hospitals in India also. Railways, very big sector for locomotive maintenance, is a very big sector for us. Manufacturing, again, warehouse, because these come with inbuilt barcode devices, RFID, and they can be used a lot in manufacturing segment. So how they are tough? Because we are designing, we are manufacturing everything in-house. So except Microsoft and Intel, we develop all inside our Japan. Even the battery, even the board, everything, LCD screen, everything is built inside our Japan factory. And that is why these devices are 7 times more powerful than any other computing device, and the average life is 5 years. So vis-a-vis 2.5 years of other computing devices, these average life is 5 years, and even we give 3-year inbuilt warranty. So this is the total devices which we are having. So we are having just a little 4-5 devices here, but the total are roughly 15 devices, which are indifferent in nature. Suppose some are clamshell, some are laptop convertible to tablet, some are only tablet. So depending on the customer, depending on the requirement, we give the right solution. So these are some of the global customers which are around the world and in India also. So by this, I would just like to end the presentation. And after this presentation, if anyone has any views, they want to see these devices. And we are also very happy to do demonstration of POC at the customer site. So, and our technical team can come and they can check, they can download the application in these devices and they can do the POC. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sachdev. As we are running late for the next session, we conclude our session here. I am told by the organizers that the interactive sessions can be held at the B2B session after the lunch. So I would request the speakers, if you are present, to interact with other participants after the lunch session. Thank you very much. And
before we conclude this session, may we please request Mr. Radhakrishnan to please present mementos from the chamber to the speakers. To Mr. Menon. Mr. Chatterjee. To Mr. Dhawan. And to Mr. Sachdev. Now may we request Mr. Taranjit Singh, the Chief Patron of the Bengal Chamber and Managing Director of JIS Group, to please present memento to Mr. Radhakrishnan. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers and the chairperson. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to the next session, the session on remote infrastructure management. Please allow us 5 minutes to do the changeover. Thank you.
We're going to learn today data structure. It's a very important and interesting subject.
If there is one thing that sets JIS apart, it is its quality of education. An experienced faculty with an impeccable track record and unique industry-oriented teaching methods helps students not only to achieve academic excellence, but also prepares them to tackle real-world problems.
Each time we are washed away, we bounce back to the shore. We know we lead the way, keeping odds at bay. To see the sunrise tomorrow, inspire the world to follow.
First-hand training and education is imparted to the students of all the branches in the well-equipped workshops in areas of pattern making, fitting, welding, conventional metal cutting machines and foundry. JIS College of Engineering has been selected to participate in the World Bank-assisted Ministry of Human Resource Development sponsored Technical Education Quality Improvement Program, TechQuip.
Even in the darkest night, igniting minds, empowering lives, within us tomorrow thrives. We have what it takes to win and achieve what we dream. We know we lead the way, keeping odds at bay. To see the sunrise tomorrow, inspire the world to follow. आवाज छुले आसमां, हमसे है ये जहां. JIS है हम, ये है गुरुकुल हमारा.
Please request you to take your seats. We are beginning the next session on future of remote infrastructure. Mr. Hiroken Sengupta, Chairman Webel, is going to chair the session. We have Mr. Shivaji Basu, Head Strategy Office ION, Tata Consultancy Services. Mr. Shondipan Sarkar, Executive Architect, Global Government Center for Competence, IBM. And Mr. Ganesh Iyer, Area Sales Manager, North and East, VMware India. So may we please request Mr. Basu, Mr. Sarkar and Mr. Iyer to come to the dais. May we also request Mr. Hiroken Sengupta to please come to the dais.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not going to take your time by speaking a long session out. This is session. Actually, I came here to listen, but suddenly I was requested to chair this session. Well, I thank Bengal Chambers for holding this particular program, which I thought is very much of interest to every one of us who came here. And I would now request before we have one session of cloud, first one as per the list you have got. But since we couldn't get the biodata of Mr. Basu right at this moment, which is being now scribbled, I believe we will switch over to the next one, which one was Mr. Shondipan Sarkar, who is who is actually Executive Architect of Global Government Center of Competence of IBM. We will ask him to start the session, and let me tell you about him. He is an IBM Executive Architect and the Open Group Distinguished Chief Architect. In his 18 years career in IT industry, he was responsible for consulting, pre-sales, delivery and implementation of technology solutions in various domains, including government, financial services, healthcare, high-tech and telecommunications. As a technical leader, he led and executed the development of complex technical solutions, negotiations with customers and vendors, evangelization of innovative technologies and solutions, and sizing and pricing of complex system integration projects. He is currently serving as the architect profession leader of IBM's India and South Asia region. In his day job, he is working as the chief architect of one of the major portfolios of IBM Global Government Center of Competence, providing cloud and smarter government solutions to public agencies in growth and mature economics across the world. Well, I think time is going out. I will come to the last one. He is an amateur bird photographer too. Well, Mr. Sarkar, please take over.
Mr. Sengupta, I hope I am audible. Right. We need to find out, we had a reshuffle, so we are trying to find out my deck first. Yes, Sarkar, I think. I know that I'm kind of standing between you and your lunch, so, and pre-lunch and post-lunch sessions are always very challenging. So, but nevertheless, hopefully something interesting will come up. First of all, thank you very much, my distinguished guests and delegates and speakers. It's really a great honor to speak in such a prestigious event. The topic that I'm going to talk about is something that we already kind of touched upon, right? So the change of world, the explosion of data and things like that. But before going that, I mean, I would like to talk about, an analogy, right? So if you look at any organization, it looks like an living organism right now. So an organization borns, It then grows, it reaches its peak, then at some point of time, it goes through its decline, and sometimes it dies, right? And it evolves, the most important thing, like any other living organism. So if we draw this analogy a little bit further, like any living organism, an organization got to have some organs, some sensory organs and some actuatory organs, right? So that we can learn and we can take action. Today, in this particular session, I am going to talk about one particular new organ that organizations are adapting. I am calling it the new eye, which is about the insights that we can build from the big data. So let us look at from the other angle. Let us look at some figures, right? We touched upon this in several, speeches before me. There is no doubt that the world is changing, and it is definitely changing at a much faster pace, velocity, than we ever experienced. So one of our distinguished speakers was talking about like disruptive technologies, right? Which used to happen once in 10 years. But look at that. In last 10 years or so, we have so many disruptive technologies. He touched upon 4, right? So we have this cloud, we have this mobility, we have this analytics, and we have this so on and so forth, right? So many different things are happening so quickly. And one of the biggest things that is happening is the data explosion. And we cannot deny that fact. So some figures, like 30 billion RFID tags today. Imagine that what kind of data that they can transmit every second, right? M2M, Internet of Things, right? So those days are gone when only computers and humans are connected to internet. Now it is about all the different machines, devices, intelligent, species that are connected. 1 trillion devices right now are connected over this Internet of Things. In 2009, we had around 76 million smart meters, and but by 2014, we are expecting that it will reach 200 million. So imagine what kind of data that they can populate. The information base is doubling every 11 hours, right? So that means that we need to grow with that. We need to cope up with that information. And look at the other big disruptive technology, which is the social media. So 12 terabytes of data every day only for Twitter. 25 terabyte of data, just log, not the data, not even the data. I mean, it's just a log of Facebook that generates every day. Imagine. And the bigger trouble is that, I mean, so far, only more than 80% of world's information is unstructured. So it is definitely imposing a lot of different challenges. It is throwing a lot of different challenges that we need to take care of. So why all of a sudden we are talking about, the data is big? Why it was not big earlier? And what do you mean by big? Often we mix this. I mean, this is kind of, well known. That, well, if the data grows, if the volume grows, that is big. But it is not only that. The big data is not about the big, volume of data. It is the complexity, the big complexity of data. So let us look at few other angles, right? So it's about the variety. Look at that. So in an organization, in our everyday work, right? I mean, we of course we create our transactional records. We we create orders and we create invoices and so on and so forth. But more than that, we create more number of documents, perhaps Word documents, perhaps Excel spreadsheets, or presentation decks like this, right? These are all creating all different kind of data. We do not know how to process it, right? Look at Facebook. So we give our comments, and comments are coming in so many different languages, right? And in India, I mean, it is often, often it is even more difficult because we are often bilingual or trilingual. We are mixing our comments with all these, different, languages, right? How can we make sense out of it? We are posting our images, right? We are putting in our, audio links over there, right? All sorts of different things. And look at the other area, right? The instrumentation, the 3 I's of IBM that we talk about in our Smarter Planet, pitch. Instrumented, interconnected, and intelligent. So instrumentation side, lots of sensors are now into work, right? 1 trillion devices. And imagine how many number of transistors we are talking about, right? So, and that is generating all sorts of raw data. We do not know how to process it, how to make sense out of it. So Ferrite is definitely one of the things. Velocity. So let us take an example of a railroad car, right? It has hundreds of sensors. It is trying to, measure its velocity. It is trying to measure the temperature. It is trying to see that whether how far is the next station, so the proximity sensors and signals and so on and so forth, right? And it is emitting data, events, every second, perhaps multiple events every second. How do we capture that? How can we take a decision in a subtraction of a second by processing all sorts of different events? Big challenge, right? One of my uncles, he designs underwater dredgers, underwater vehicles, right? So he will have to decide that, based on the proximity of a particular, rock or whatever, or sea surface, how much force, how much thrust he needs to put into his cutter. And that decision has to be taken in fraction of a second. So it's a velocity. It's a stream of data and taking the decision at a fraction of a second. Often we talk about these 3 V's because this is kind of well known, because from 2001, Gartner is talking about these 3 V's. Gartner used to be called Meta Group at that point of time.